My guest is JoAn Scott. She is the managing director of the NCAA Men's Basketball Championships. I'm lucky enough that she joins us annually for this conversation. I've known JoAn for many, many years, dating back to her time at Nike. JoAn, how are you?
I'm good. It was a 75-degree day, I think, in Indianapolis today, which is
Wow.
kind of weird for March Madness. So usually we're in here and it's snowing and it's not bad to be burning the midnight oil, but I'm really good. It's March and it's my favorite month of the year.
Yeah, you're gearing up. I mean, this is such a big production and it's grown so much over the years. So let's start with Selection Sunday. That's coming up this Sunday. That's grown. The ratings have gone up. There's such interest in that. But for people who haven't listened to you join me before, give our audience a little bit of insight as to how many people are sitting in the room? Where are you doing this? Give us a little flavor for Selection Sunday.
Yeah, well, this year we will be here in Indianapolis, up in a suburb. It's not Carmel, it's Carmel, Indiana, at one of our Marriott hotels, which is a corporate partner of ours. We have 12 committee members. That's new. I think we're in year 2 of 12 committee. We expanded the committee from 10 to 12. So the room will be the 12 committee members sitting around a very long, narrow tables with screens all around them. About 4 screens per committee member. My boss, Dan Gavitt, and the chair is on one end. And then myself and our computer programmer, and 2 other staff members that help with statistics. So we'll go into the room this Wednesday about noon, and our initial vote will take place soon after that. And then we just, either seed select teams throughout the week. We take breaks because of games going on and, a lot of good basketball games to be played this week. And then we usually, it's a late night Saturday night, and we lose an hour of daylight savings time this year. But then we get up early Sunday, and we actually don't even begin to bracket until about Sunday at noon is when we bracket. And then we'll have about 6 there's 6 games, I think, that are conference games on Sunday. So we'll have contingency brackets for all those games on who wins and who loses and who doesn't, win their conference tournament because of their seed list, that we have. So Sunday tends to be the chaotic day. But Brian, for those listening, this year, one of the things we did was we did a little with Andy Katz. We did some videos on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube and search the NCAA selection videos, and you can see how we prepare. They're about 10-minute videos, how we prepare, how we select, how we seed, and then how we bracket. So it'll give you a really good kind of idea what goes on in the room.
I love that. And I love the transparency, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, they might be doing this or that. Or, I know people talk about matchups and regions and former coaches going against their old team and things like that. So I love the fact that people will be able to see these videos.
Yeah, we did that as a educational kind of approach to it for our own coaches and our own director of operations and associate ADs for basketball. We've always tried to get them into a room and show them with a mock, but it's just too hard. So we decided to do these 4 short videos to just explain it. In general, it's obviously just a very really short snippet of what happens, but it does give you the general overall principles of what we do this week. So I really encourage folks to Google those videos and take a look.
Analytics are being used so much more in sports. How much is analytics used versus just the eyeball test, right?
Yeah. We don't use the eyeball test. We use various, that's the glory of a 12-member committee, is that everybody has a different approach.
Right.
Everybody. I would say that the NCAA evaluation tool is a metric we use to sort our team sheets and to sort quad 1, 2, 3, and 4 wins. But on our team sheets, we also have BPI, KPI, Sagarin. So we provide several analytics. And again, that's the glory of a 12-member committee. They all kind of rely on some more than others. As you know, some are predictive analytics and some are results-based. And some people kind of lean one way and other committee members lean another. And our NCAA evaluation tool it mixes both. It mixes both the predictive and results-based. So it's very much a part of the selection process. But again, the human element is very important.
All right, the path to the Final Four. The Final Four is in Houston this year for the men. Give our audience a concept of how early on are you communicating with Houston and the venue about all of the planning for the Final Four? And then what's capacity for that huge stadium?
So we started planning with the Houston Local Organizing Committee in September of 2021. We had an initial meeting. That's our initial meeting saying, okay, here's what you need to work on. And then we parked that because we were working on New Orleans. So then we pick 3 days a month and we go the same 3 days. Everybody who needs to meet on the Final Four, whether it's broadcast, television, ticketing, everybody goes the same 3 days, once a month, June through February. And we plan everything through those 3 days. So we've been meeting with them consistently since June, once a month, 3 days. At the end of that 3 days, we all sit and discuss the decisions we've made. On Selection Sunday, if not a day after, I believe. No, actually, it's a little bit later because they have the Houston Rodeo. I got to remember where I am. So we'll move in a little bit later than normal, but we will build a basketball stadium within a football stadium. And we will, the capacity will be right just around 74,000.
Wow.
Which is much larger than a Houston's Texans game. Again, we have our own seating system and we build it right on we remove the turf and we build it right on top of the, where the turf would be. So we also have to bring in sound and everything because, there's not sound above the football field. You don't want sound when they're playing football. So it's a big setup. It takes a while to set up everything from the sound to the seating system to decor to everything.
Okay, for this year's tournament, is there anything new? Is there anything that people should be paying attention to on that road to the Final Four in Houston?
I think we try and mix it up with some like new branding and decor. I think that's one of the things I love that we do with our Final Four, and we've stuck with this, and this has been a decision of our committee, is that we curtail the look for the city and we give it a little local flavor.
Yep.
And so I think that is always really cool for the city. And then we try and do a little bit different decor in the preliminary rounds. Our courts will be the same. What we try to do now is make special moments for the players, and how else can we make, those who are playing in those first rounds really feel like they were part of the tournament. So elevating the student athlete experience and making sure the decor in the locker rooms and the gifts that we give them, our kids, that what they want to wear, it's a gear they want to wear. So I think a lot of it is behind the scenes. But part of, I think, what we learned from COVID is people kind of want that, that routine feel of March and, what they see. So probably not too much this year that you'll see differently. Stay tuned for next year.
Has NIL played any part in changes or just feel of the tournament?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that comes to mind, and the biggest thing is just we're seeing at college student athletes. I'd say I've been here now 10 years. Can you believe it? And
wow.
What I used to see was a lot of professional athletes. What it always was professional athletes in the ads. And I think what you'll see this year is a lot of collegiate student athletes in a lot of the ads being used by our corporate partners. So
I love that.
That's what it's affected this championship the most. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the broadcast. CBS Turner, everyone loves this partnership. It's going to run through 2032. At the end of that, I think that will be 22 years that CBS and Turner has been a partner on the NCAA men's basketball championship. This is the last year for Jim Nantz, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, the one last Final Four he's going to call. That's correct.
The last one shining moment.
For Jim Nantz.
And then Ian Eagle, who I really like, is replacing Jim Nantz. And then also new this year, and I love these additions, Jay Wright, former Villanova coach, and then Stan Van Gundy is also being added too. So, we've seen Stan Van Gundy on a lot of the NBA coverage, and he's so knowledgeable as a former coach. I'm really excited to see Jay Wright. If you look at the last, 10, 15 years in this tournament, he's had as much success as anyone. So for him to be able to bring that perspective to the broadcast, I think is going to be great.
Yeah, we just went to Atlanta a week ago today. and had our Turner CBS meetings. And it's so exciting because it does, you learn all this. A lot of this comes together last minute. I think Jay Wright has been phenomenal on the regular season games that he's done. He's just fantastic. Yep. And what I love about March Madness and, just like being on a selection show is he's been there, but he's been there when he's raised the trophy to one shining moment. And he's been there when he's been knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
And so he knows the coaches and what's going through players' minds. And I just think the coach's perspective that he brings will be it's just a really good addition. And so I'm excited for it. I think Stan will bring, like you said, just a different opinion. I think it's good to mix that up every now and then again as well. And he brings his personality and his coaching mentality as well. So I'm excited for it.
And then I love Charles Barkley in the studio, right? I mean,
yeah,
they play the game for the NBA where, he's got to guess, is this a player or not? And you bring him into college and, he was a great collegiate player at Auburn, but it's just so much fun because, he gets to talk about the college game as opposed to the pro game. But when you go to these meetings, what's that like? How many broadcasters are there? That's got to be a lot of fun.
Well, the meeting last Monday was more, I'd say probably production. Okay. Tomorrow there will be a press, there's actually a press kind of video conference at 11 with the talent. And I think Jim Nance and Grant and Raftery and Tracy are going to be a part of that. That's virtual now. And then tomorrow afternoon, we will do a virtual seminar with all the talent, including Charles and Kenny and Clark and Seth, everybody in between, everyone, all the play-by-play. And we do a Q&A with Chris Rastetter, our coordinator of officials. And it's their time to just ask the questions. We want them to be educated. We want them to understand rules when the rules play, called the way it is. And then we just give them a little update and speaking points on other things like name, image, likeness, transfer portal, things like that. So that's tomorrow's seminar virtually. Yeah.
Is there anything new with the production, camera angles, anything that we should be looking for within the broadcast?
Yeah, there is, but we always film this so early. I can't tell you yet.
Okay, so
there is some exciting thing.
Okay, so you're teasing it. That there's things to look out for. That's good.
So yeah, there are things to look out for. Yeah, in Houston especially, I would say. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The app. The app continues to grow.
March Madness Live, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. You can watch the games from anywhere on any device. I remember back in the day when there was like the boss button at work.
Yeah.
Press the boss button and spreadsheet.
We still have it. We still have it. Stay tuned there. That's a new and improved. We'll look out for that boss button this year.
Okay. I like that. But I just like how the app has grown. What kind of growth have you guys seen year over year? I would imagine it's really strong.
It is. And actually, I think we're on 19 different platforms this year.
Wow.
And we're actually live right now during college tournament. That's some of the feedback. They're doing some storytelling and some montage channels. So for both men and women, by the way. And so they're just kind of gearing up to the tournament. But I think the incredible thing is you can just read so many statistics from it. How many starts, how many hours, whether they're on a phone, whether they're on a laptop, where they're, how long they're watching it, all the above. And it's always interesting to find out, like the first game when people are trying to, watch and log on and make sure it works and how many people, and just the various games of the ratings and watching how it is. But they've done a phenomenal job. You'll see some things there as well of watching everything and what they're learning and advancing that as well. But yeah, it's an incredible asset, and the folks there at Warner Brothers Discovery do a phenomenal job with that app, and our folks here at the NCAA.
So that leads into the sponsor question, because sponsors love to see all those analytics, right? How many hours, who's watching, what world are they watching, all of that stuff. Your three main sponsors, again, are AT&T, Coca-Cola, Capital One. I know you have other sponsors as well, but it seems like I see those commercials over and over and over again. How, besides the TV commercials, are you activating these sponsorships?
Yeah, we do a lot of, I think they're all a little bit different in the way they activate, I would say to you, which is because they have different demographics they're focused on. A lot or more, they all do a lot of stuff at retail. But what we see is at preliminary rounds, activation on site, a lot of sampling with Coca-Cola as they're exiting. But really, I would say the thing to you in Houston is that they all three have found a way to work together, and they sponsor our music festivals. So Friday, so Friday night is the AT&T Jam Fest, and then Saturday is Coca-Cola, and then Sunday is Capital One. And so they've all found, and then they all, identify the genre of musician that they want to be performing that night. So they've even found ways to work together when they're in the city of the Final Four. And then obviously at site within our Fan Fest at the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, they'll activate as well with our Fan Fest and other things. But those are things that come to mind.
And again, you said something new this year because of NIL, like current student athletes might be incorporated into some of the things, whether it's commercials or some of these appearances or things like that. I think that's great. Yeah. That's
that's what I think is the differentiator this year. It was pretty new last year, but I think this year, a lot of our corporate partners have already signed NIL agreements with student athletes throughout the regular season of college sports and all sports.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, the stipend for the families. I know this is something that you guys added, the NCAA added a few years ago. Again, for people who may not understand what that is, how it works, can you explain that to our audience? I think it's great what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 where the CFP and the NCAA both came to be worked with legislation to provide $3,000 in travel expenses to the families of 15 student athletes on each team that make it to the Final Four. And that's for both men's and women's basketball. And that is to help alleviate travel costs, hotel, meals. That is up to we give the funds to the NCAA. It's up for them from the NCAA to the universities. They distribute it per student athlete to the families. If you advance to the Final Four, then you are then the school has advanced another $1,000 per student athlete. So if your son or daughter playing in the Final Four, you get $4,000, and if you play in the semifinals, it's $3,000. We've got very good feedback from that. And again, that's up to the schools on how they distribute it, how they allot for it, and receipts or no. That's all up to the schools to manage. But it was applauded in year one, and every year it's amazing how many people are so appreciative for it.
Well, you talked earlier about the student athlete experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be at the top of the list. They want their parents or their family at their event, especially the Final Four. Yeah. So doing that allows those families who may not be able to afford to come to be able to come watch them. And that's just wonderful.
Yeah. And then also, I think, helps those student athletes not worry about their parents.
Right.
In some cases, like, and having to worry about that.
Yeah. All right. I always ask you this question. Your schedule during the tournament, it's crazy. I have Peter O'Reilly from the NFL on every year. We talk about Super Bowl. He's running around but you're like in multiple cities. Peter's doing Pro Bowl, then he's going to the side of the Super Bowl. You're like a jet setter all over. Speaking of NIL deals, I want anyone listening to this, I think JoAn needs her own private jet deal. Like, can we get a private jet deal for JoAn, an NIL deal, so you can fly? I mean, you're doing a lot of flying. You
actually
fly in comfort.
It's changed a little. Actually.
Okay, let me hear.
I shifted last year. So I will be in the selection room morning, noon, and night from Wednesday till late Sunday after the bracket. So the bracket goes out. We have several media interviews, and then we're dispersing 68 planes, not quite 68 planes, but at least 50 planes, if not more. And we're working, pretty late into the night trying to make sure travel goes well. And then I drive over to Dayton from Indianapolis for the first four, and I'm there. And then I leave there Wednesday before the actual last first four game, and I fly to Atlanta to the Turner Studios.
Okay.
And then just last year, this is the first time I've done this. I'm normally flying to have 4 different first and second rounds, but I'm now in the control center kind of problem solving,
Okay.
being the command center of when anything goes wrong. So I'm there with Chris Rastetter, our coordinator officials, and with Turner and CBS and other staff members, to be there to problem solve. Then I come back home enough to wash clothes and leave and stay a day, and then I go to I'll go New York. I've already got it, New York, and then I'll go Louisville for the Sweet 16, and then I'll go Vegas. We're in Las Vegas for the very first time with an NCAA championship for the Elite Eight, and end up in Kansas City, and then I'll fly into Houston in on the Monday after the Elite Eight, and I'll be there for a week. So it's pretty much the month of March.
By the way, so there's games at Madison Square Garden. Am I just silly, or has that not happened for a while? I don't think when's the last time it happened this late in the tournament?
They hosted the Sweet 16 Elite Eight maybe 4 to 5 years ago.
Okay.
And they were supposed to host during when we canceled in 2020.
Yeah.
So that's why it was probably 2018 or before. But yeah, now it hadn't been for a while before then. But they have hosted, and they're a great host. Yeah.
That's going to be an amazing atmosphere for the teams that get to play there. I mean, all the venues are great.
Yeah.
But, that's Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
So, all right. So your schedule isn't as crazy, but you're still going to be traveling for weeks. Give me an example. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but like you talked about problem solving. You're sitting in the command center. Like, what would a problem be? Is it, something with an official? Is it something with the court?
Yeah.
Like, what would a problem be?
Yeah. It can be a lost bus driver, and that's, that's made the USA Today because the team is tweeting about it, to an airplane that's had to land that I heard about on Twitter, to, but the one I think about that's probably more relatable, which is as simple as we had a piece of court. We move all of our courts in, and somebody was noticing and pointing. We could see the media were pointing at something on the floor, like maybe there was a lifted edge in the right inside of the 3-point line. Well, you don't want to delay the game, but you got to worry about player safety. So at a timeout, we were like, I didn't want to send people out there and go, hey, go check out the floor. So what we did is send a ball kid out with a ball kid supervisor, and they're like sweeping the floor. Like there's a spot there, and they're trying to determine, is it bad or what is it? And so it wasn't as bad. We got through that game, and then between games, we solved it. But then it's solving like, okay, how long is this game going to be delayed? And then Turner and CBS is figuring out what to do with programming until then. So it's little things like that, to just buses, and there's a lot of moving parts, as you know, every year. So it's just that kind of problem solving.
You need like a student intern who's just doing nothing other than monitoring social media.
Yeah.
Because if people are tweeting about problems, hey, we got a bus driver missing, or we got a boy doing this.
That's how we usually find out a lot, because as much as our primary administrators are really good at reaching out to us when things go wrong, kids tweet. It can be simple things, even just and you really do read a lot on Twitter and social media. So it's just monitoring all of the above and trying to now all of our sites too, if they're having issues, they call us because they're on site and they need to be focused. So they're also sending us issues of, hey, we've got more media than we have, seats for. How should we solve it? I remember one year we had, for some reason, the venue had double booked some seats. And so we had more fans than we had seats. So it's trying to work with them and do all that in the control center instead of having to have them worry about it on site.
How many cell phones are you carrying during this tournament?
I've gone down to one. I was carrying, like I called it the fun phone, the friends and family phone, and then work phone. It's just too much. And by the time you're on instant messaging, and you're texting, and you're emailing, and you got a radio, and you're like, it's 2 minutes. It's just overload. So I'm down to one.
Good for you.
Yeah, I am.
How many people are on the NCAA staff helping you produce this? I know you have people at the venues and they're hosted by schools in that area, but on the NCAA staff, your staff, how many people are on the staff?
So we have about 12 full-time men's basketball staff, but Scott Brown runs our Division III championship, and Alex Mortellaro runs our NIT championship, but they also help us with the tournament. So 12 full-time men's basketball staff. But I would say for Final Four, and if you said to me who's working on men's basketball, It's between 45 and 50.
Okay.
And when we get to it. Now, they're also working on ticketing for the College World Series and PR for other groups. And so there's various broadcasts with beach volleyball. So they're working on other championships, and they work on our championships during the winter and a little bit every day. But full-time men's basketball is 12.
All right, just a couple minutes left. I was at Duke, as I told you before, and a few things blew me away. Number one, 12 of the 13 scholarship players have agents now. Can you believe that? They have agents and I was like, wow, this is really a change.
Yeah.
But the other thing that really struck me, I mean, this is obvious, is no more Coach K. You have John Shire. And, I talked to Coach Shire for a little bit. So you don't have the Jay Wrights. You don't have the Roy Williams. You don't have the Coach Ks. You've got kind of a new breed of coach, oftentimes younger, like Coach Shire. What do you hear from the coaches? Because you have such amazing relationships with the coaches. That's something that's always struck me about you, whether it was when you worked at USA Basketball, Nike, now in this job. But it seems like there's a new wave of younger coaches that have replaced some of the legends, and I'm sure they have their own thoughts on things. What are some of the things that you might hear from them that I'm sure are innovative and good ideas from time to time?
Well, first of all, let me say, and I steal that from Charles Barkley. I love he says it all the time. I remember when Dean Smith and Lute Olson and Lou Henson and all them, they all retired. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to college basketball? And there's always this next, generation. And so I'm, Roy Williams is retired, Jay, Coach K, but yet we have the Mark Hughes and the next generation of young ball like John Shire. I think what's different now is the NIL really does probably challenge them coaching it hasn't any of their predecessors. And I said at the NCAA, I think people, and I've only been here 10 years, but a lot of people say, hey, what's happened since, name, image, likeness and transfer portal, that's more change than it happened at the NCAA in 70 years. So that, to me, it pertains to coaches. It's a different world. You have to have, the ability for players to have agents, and like Duke does. So I think it's adapting to it more being than just playing, coaching basketball. So I would say that that's probably one of the things that I hear the most. It's just a different approach, and it's a different balance of what they focus on.
All right, let's talk about the future sites for the Final Four. I'm always impressed. You guys have this laid out. Again, Peter O'Reilly, I'll talk to him. Here's future sites. It's usually 3 or 4 years ahead.
Yeah.
You guys have this laid out to 2030. I'm like, holy cow, this is, who knows what the world's going to look like in 2030.
Or this tournament, yeah.
Right. I mean, we've got Houston this year. Then you've got Phoenix, my hometown, in 2024. 2025 is San Antonio in the Alamo Dome.
Yeah.
2026 is Indianapolis and Lucas Oil Stadium. And I know that Indy's in the rotation and it's home of the NCAA. Then in 2027, Detroit, Ford Field, which I kind of like that, you're spreading it around to some cities. As you mentioned earlier, 2028, the first time ever in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. 2029, back in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And then 2030, AT&T Stadium. Yeah. So those are some big boy stadiums and some major venues, but I would think in your job that it helps you that you kind of know where this is going over the next several years. So as you're planning, you can say, look, this is what we need to do to plan accordingly.
So I think definitely, I think with the NFL, you have more stadiums and more places they can play, and certainly with the CFP. For men's basketball, we only have a few, dome stadiums. Again, getting more with Vegas. But we have 10 to 12 dome stadiums that we can go to. More being built again. But so therefore, we have to lay that out, because it also includes the convention center that we need for our Fan Fest and our NC and the NABC convention and the hotel room block. So when you put the venue with the hotels and the convention center, and it's limited to 10 to 12 cities, we have to get out, because there's so much business in the convention, especially post-COVID, believe it or not, Brian. I mean, people are booking things so far out because they rolled it forward when they couldn't have it in 2021 or 2022. So that's what we do. But we just announced those. That last fall. So we're good here for a few years to get far out, but we try to stay that far out.
Explain to our audience, do you select the venue, or is there a process where people can come to you and say, hey, we really want to, like, I think of a stadium like SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. I was there for the Super Bowl. What a beautiful facility. If they said one day, you know what, we want to get in the mix and be in consideration for hosting the Final Four, do they come to you? Do you go to them?
Yeah, we send out the bid specs and we send them out to anybody who's interested, and they could do it. Obviously, it's an outdoor stadium. I mean, it's not completely enclosed, so you have weather concerns and temperature concerns and just condensation on venues that aren't enclosed, which is why we play it in. It's a national championship, so.
Right.
But we send out bid specs, so anybody that has a dome stadium can apply. And as long as you align with one of our universities to host, then anyone can submit the bid process through the bid process.
Yeah, I mean, now that you point that out, like, it really does kind of limit the venues because it has to be enclosed.
Yep.
You don't want slippery basketball court or anything like that. JoAn Scott, Managing Director, NCAA Men's Basketball Championships. Thank you so much. I always look forward to this conversation. Just so impressed by you and everything that you do and all the things that you juggle during the month of March. And, it's just an event that everyone loves, and it seems to get better and better every year.
Yeah, my line is embrace the joy of March Madness, because it does bring a lot of joy to a lot of people in March.
And you probably have to sleep like the whole month of February in preparation for March.
No, even February I don't sleep. It's more like April. So, but we try and tell ourselves a couple of things I stole from Tony Bennett after Virginia had gotten beat when they got beat by UNBC, or University of Baltimore, America. You know what I mean. But anyway, he said, "Be where your feet are," to his team when they came out the next year, and then they won the national championship.
Yeah.
So, when you're running events, you're always trying to think the week ahead and other things or whatever. So we try and be where our feet are. And we do embrace the joy of March Madness every day.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been watching the tournament my entire life. I cannot remember a year where there's more parity. I think this thing is wide open. Wide open.
Agree.
And I think it's going to make it a lot of fun to watch.
I think so too. I do. I think so. I think it's going to be fun to see what happens, because I'm not sure anybody knows.
Yeah. All right, JoAn, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Business Radio.
It's an honor.
Good luck.
Thank you.